When a global artist announces a world tour, an entire continent of 1.4 billion people gets left off the map, almost entirely. This has caused a lot of debate online, and in my last video, it was one of the major questions I kept getting when I talked about BTS's world tour and why they skipped most of Africa completely. And in this video, I'm going to do a deep dive because I've been doing a lot of research on this. And first thing I want you to know is it has nothing to do with fan demand, because Africa has one of the most passionate audiences on earth, and everyone in the industry knows this. Now let's look at the 5 structural walls, which I'm tagging walls of Jericho, that makes this almost entirely impossible to stage a mega tour of this size with that level of massive production. So these walls are routine, currency, customs, infrastructure, and risk. I'm going to walk you through all 5 of it. And then because it's easy to just name the problem, we're also going to look at what it will actually take to bring down these massive walls of Jericho and be able to fix each one of them. Let me start by saying the thing that you are probably already thinking, like, oh, Febe, but they travel all the time to the Europe, they do the Europe leg, they do Asia leg, they do US leg, so they actually cross oceans every single time. And yes, you're absolutely correct, because they do cross continents constantly. Let me be precise about why Africa is a bit different, and it's not about flying. When a tour leaves North America for Europe, it flies once and then plays about 15, 20, 25 dates. So that means that the flight, the crew resets, the customs paperwork, the whole cost of that crossing gets spread into dozens of dates. And that's what we call a leg. But in most cases of anyone who has tried to do a tour of that size in Africa, it gets treated like an out and back. Maybe you're able to fly in, play 2 or 3 dates or play 2 or 3 shows, and then fly back out to where you came from. Thing is, that's the same crossing cost, but a fraction of the revenue to absorb it. So here's the second half that actually matters more for a tour this size. Of course, you can stage smaller tours that don't require a lot of that massive production move. But the major problem when it comes to a mega tour like this is, in between most of these tours, there are 3 or 4 days gap between stadiums or between cities. And those aren't dead days, those are actually working days where steel is going up, the entire stage rig is going up. And it's why mega tours run duplicate stage sets, which we call the concept of leapfrogging. It means that while the artist plays City A, City B is being set up already. The entire machine for City B, a completely second rig is being built in City B, while a third possibly might be striking down in another city that was played before City A. That entire system only works when cities are close enough to truck in between them, right? You can move between Paris to London to, blah, blah, blah. And you cannot leapfrog a stadium rig across an ocean for just 2 shows. And then look at what a leg here would actually mean. Let's imagine Lagos to Nairobi to Johannesburg. These cities are like thousands of kilometers apart, and with no proper road freight network connecting them the way European cities are connected. So what should be a leg then gets fragmented into isolated, individually expensive dates. So Africa can't be routed as a leg if the only dates that you can play are just 3 to 5 stops. Before I can explain this wall, you need to know how a tour date actually gets bought, because most people have no idea, and it's the whole reason this actually hurts. An artist coming into or staging a tour don't necessarily come into the city and start splitting or taking the risk. The local promoter has to buy the local show or that particular show date, and they agree to a guarantee. And a guarantee is a flat fee that the artist and the promoter agrees to. Whether the show sells out or not, that money has to be paid to the artist. That number is agreed months ahead of the show, sometimes a year before. And this isn't just a promise on paper. The promoter actually has to pay a deposit. Often around half of that guarantee money has to be paid at signing. So real money is out the door before you even announce the tour date and before you even sell a single ticket. And then apart from that, the promoter also has to fund the entire production, venue, production, staging, sound, lights, security, marketing, crew, insurance. All of this has to be done a year in advance. What is the promoter's actual product? Risk. They take up and absorb the risk so that the artist doesn't have to pay from their own pocket. If the show sells out, the promoter wins. But if the show doesn't sell out, the artist still gets paid and the promoter takes the loss. And that's the deal everywhere in the world. These guarantees are billed in hard currency. Even our artists right now, they bill in hard currency. We're talking about dollars and euros. And then you now look at the tour having to pay crew, vendors, and freight in dollars. But then you now look at the promoter selling tickets in naira, shillings, rands, or cedis. So picture it this way. The promoter signs the guarantee, they pay a deposit in dollar, and start selling tickets in local currency 6 months out to the actual show date. And between the sale and the show night, currency goes down 15%, which definitely happens here regularly. Now, every ticket they already sold just got smaller. The guarantee remains the same because there's a contract binding that guarantee. That promoter can go broke even on a sold out show. So you have a full room, great night, everybody posting about it, but the promoter is probably crying because they are underwater because they took a hard currency obligation and got a payout in soft currency. So how do you protect yourself as the promoter? You price the ticket in dollars, or you price it way above the market standard from the start, and by that you instantly price out the entire audience that this was made for, the local audience, because how many people can afford a $800 ticket or a $150 ticket or even a $50 ticket? Imagine that for a second. That creates our second wall, which instantly prices out most of the audience that you're building that particular show for. So the promoter has carry a currency risk that no ticket sale can cover. And every fix, which includes either increasing ticket price, selling tickets in dollar, makes the show less affordable for the people who wanted it in the first place. This is the part that is quite fascinating for me. Global tours move under what is called the ATA Carnets system. What's an ATA Carnet system? Think of it as a VIP passport, but for cargo. So this is what makes it easy for tours to be able to move millions of dollars of equipment across borders, duty-free, and without delay. It operates in about 80 countries and custom territories worldwide. But the most interesting part of this is that only 8 countries in Africa have this ATA Carnet system. And here's the entire list directly from the ICC's own directory. South Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Madagascar, and Mauritius. That's it. On the entire continent, just 8 of these countries have the ATA Carnet system. Nigeria isn't one of them. Ghana isn't one of them. Kenya isn't. So the 3 biggest Afrobeat touring markets on this continent are sitting outside of this system. So picture this. BTS decides to come to Lagos with 40 containers, like 40 cargo containers of steel, of equipment, of audio, lighting, and all of this. Arrives at our port, sits there stuck over paperwork for days, for weeks, for a show that is working on a timeline. That's enough to collapse a multi-million-dollar schedule. And unlike a flight delay, there is nothing the production can do except for wait for the clearance. And even where the membership exists, like the system exists, it doesn't automatically clear as well. So because custom officers at smaller crossings haven't handled this carnage system before. So you see why this is a massive issue. The show can't even clear the border on a timeline that anyone can plan with. So it's not a bankable timeline. You can spend days, weeks waiting for clearances without this ATA Carnet system. Let me give you the number that should actually stop this entire conversation dead. The venues most consistently used for international standard indoor shows here in Nigeria is the Eko Convention Center. And this is a banquet hall that was repurposed to host shows like this. That even has a capacity of just 6,000 people standing. Even the largest indoor sports arena in Lagos can only take 2,000 seats. Meanwhile, Nigerian artists are selling out the O2, selling out MSG, selling out the Barclays Center. These are rooms that average about 20,000 people per night. What this means is that they can still fill a 20,000 room and then come back to their own city to only fill a 6,000, which is just a banquet hall. And understand that that's even arena scale. That's a smaller conversation. Now we're talking about a stadium tour, the BTS tier, the Beyonce tier. These tours are built to run in rooms that expect about a 50,000 to 100,000 capacity per night. That's how the economics closes, because you can't stage that massive production. To break even, you need the numbers, and to make sure that the ticket is even affordable for the people, you need that number. 50,000 to 100,000 people in a stadium, and some of these tour dates extend to about 3 times in the same stadium, just to break even, or to even, capture the audience demand. Now, you don't fly that kind of production into a city just for 6,000 seats. I mean, the maths is not even mathing. Honestly, it wouldn't even survive a conversation on paper. So while we're arguing about the arenas that we're building, we're not even in the rooms where stadium tours are being discussed. Now, people hear this and say, oh, we need bigger spaces. The thing is, we have bigger spaces. There's TBS, which is Tafawa Balewa Square. There's National Stadium. I know that a couple of these cities also have huge stadiums. I know South Africa has stadiums, and they hold plenty of people. But most of the time, speaking for the Nigerian experience, they have nothing in them. And what I mean by nothing is there's no installed staging, there's no rigging infrastructure, no production power. Organizers have to bring in the stage, the lights, the sound, sometimes the toilets and everything. They have to bring all of that in. Everything that should be built into a building has to be factored into your budget for a single night or maybe 2 nights. That's the actual wall. We don't lack rooms, we actually lack production venues. A space with capacity and no infrastructure isn't a venue. It's a field with fence, and every show there pays to rebuild every of these things from zero, every single time. Now, this is the one people talk around, so let me be exact about it. Mega tours don't run on courage. They run on insurance, cancellation cover, equipment cover, crew cover, public liability. Which means no underwriter, no tour. And that's not a preference, that's a contract agreement. Underwriters price a market based on documentation or verifiable risk data. We're talking security infrastructure, incident records, crowd management history, medical and emergency response, or whether there are recognized safety standards at all. And whether data is thin or inconsistent, because out of the entire continent, I think the only country that probably has some sort of safety requirement certification properly done for entertainment is South Africa. And that's thin. That's one country out of 56 or 58 countries. Where that data is thin or inconsistent, most of the time, these underwriters don't usually refuse, they just price it higher. And when you price something higher, it becomes far too high for anyone to afford it. And that premium doesn't sit alone. Now we're looking at another line item where we layer on private security. Especially when you bring in a mega tour or an A-list artist of that level, of the Beyonce or BTS level, you need to factor in private security, additional crew cover, because definitely they're bringing in their crew members or flying in their production crew. Contingency budgets upon contingency plans, right? And you can price out an entire date. By the time you had all of these line items, you can price out a date that could be commercially viable and price it out because of those additional costs. And here's the part that I want to be precise about, because this gets discussed emotionally and it shouldn't be. The issue is very often not the actual risk on ground. It's not that we have maybe limited security. It's the absence of documentation to prove it. A market with real safety standards, incident reporting, and crowd management is underwritable. But a market operating on experience and goodwill, however competent, is not. Because there's nothing to price against. See where I'm getting at here? Risk you can't document is priced as risk you can't manage. Now we've discussed these 5 walls of Jericho: routine, currency, customs, infrastructure, and risk. And every one of them is built by people. So that means that every single one of this can be undone by people. So let me be specific, because invest in the industry is not a plan. Let's take this one after the other and see how we can break down these walls of Jericho. On routing, we built the leg ourselves. And I'm so happy that we've done this, we've proved this on a smaller scale. Though now, a couple of, maybe last year, was able to do a 25-city tour in Nigeria. However, I don't have the details of how that tour went. But if that can be done, it was on a tour bus, I guess. If that can be done, that means that there is something here and it's possible. Now, even on a larger scale, because I'm not talking about a smaller tour, I'm talking about bringing mega world tours here. It will require us having coordinated regional circuits, because we can't wait on we can't wait on the Western world to come build our, touring leg here or to come route us. That's not how this is done. We have to prove the concept here. And that means that promoters across Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, Johannesburg have to come together or come to some sort of agreement to align dates so that a visiting production can play 5 to 6 shows on one crossing instead of just 2 or a one-off. Because a one-off date in Africa is not bankable. It doesn't make sense. This is a promoter side agreement. This is not a government one. It's one of the single most achievable items on the list. We can't move the ocean, but we can absolutely make the crossing worth it. And this is something that we can also do with our routing map. But it's going to take conscious effort to be able to build this out and map it and document it properly. To say, oh, this is how we are able to prove that you can tour in Africa, even if with a small show. Then on currency, this part is something that's not my expertise, but from my research, this is something that I've been able to, infer. We move the risk back to the people built to carry it. And what does that mean? We're talking about hedge contracts and escrow structures. These are currency clauses that split the exposure between the promoter and the production, instead of dumping it all on just the local party. And I think on tours of this scale, that's probably the way it's being done. And this is a standard financial instrumentation that is used on heavy risk or import heavy industry, even on this continent. The only thing now is for live entertainment to find a way to professionalize that aspect. On customs, this one is genuinely policy, but it's not impossible. ATA Carnets system or access, this one is not entirely impossible. We just need the government or major cities like Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and some of these ECOWAS cities to be a part of the ATA Carnets system, or a dedicated fast-track customs clearing or customs channel for touring production equipment with a guaranteed clearance window. That way, we can predict and plan tour dates and plan the Carnet system into, or plan the clearance window into the tours, especially when we're moving across oceans. And truth is, governments already do this type of systems for film production and for trade exhibitions in different markets. So it's mostly more of a precedent than an invention. So it's something that can just be, it's just by, signing this or passing this bill into law. I don't know how that works, but yeah, that's it. Then on infrastructure, the major thing is to build venues and not just spaces or rooms. Every arena going up right now should factor in these 3 things. Be specific on installed production infrastructure, especially certified international rigging load standards. Factor in these rigging load standards from day one. And that just requires you bringing in structural engineers to have a look at it from the beginning. Because retrofitting a roof that has already been done or a power spine is brutally expensive. But if you factor that design cost into your build, it's way cheaper. Because a room of maybe, let's say, 12,000 people that can't hang 80 tons of equipment will never host the show that it was built to attract. And it will be a disaster if we have to build new arenas and then have to import the entire production rig from scratch. On risk, we need to make ourselves underwritable. And that means recognize safety certifications, incident reporting that actually gets recorded, certified crowd management, documented emergency planning. The goal isn't to convince anyone that we're safe, it's to produce the evidence that lets someone price us honestly. And notice what runs underneath every single one of these things that I have mentioned: documentation, certification, standards, which includes policy. It's not about talent. It's not that Africa is not viable. It's not that we don't have the audience. It's not that they don't want to come here. But all of these things are very important things that needs to be broken down. The walls of Jericho have to come down flat for mega tours like this to be able to move without any hitch and move seamlessly, for us to have a leg where they can have 20, 25, show dates in the whole of Africa, move seamlessly across borders, and have a proper road network that works. Now, across major African cities right now, arena projects are finally happening, which is fantastic news. Lagos has a $100 million, 12,000 seat arena under construction right now. And this is backed by Live Nation, Oakview Group, and our own sovereign wealth fund. But the current estimate is that it's supposed to open between late 2027 and 2028. This means that the arenas are coming. Wall 4 is coming down. And that's exactly when a sixth trap comes up. And this is something that almost nobody is talking about. I think there are conversations here and there, but nobody is actually taking this as a serious problem, because the arenas are coming. The infrastructure will be built. What then happens when we build the rooms and still lose everything that room was supposed to generate? Because we're an import-reliant economy, which also includes manpower, certified manpower. Because you can build the room and still lose everything that room was supposed to bring you, which is revenue, income that stays with the locals. Because we are not talking about building the ecosystem or building the skilled labor that would be able to serve these arenas. It's honestly the reason why I'm doing what I do right now, educating people. Consider this your official Backstage pass. Hit the subscribe button and tell me in the comments which one of those 5 walls of Jericho that were mentioned would come down first. And I genuinely want to know what you would bet on. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I'll see you in the next gig.